Welcome, everybody, to the Event Ensemble Spotlight. Today we have Wally Bornman, Dusty Trails Productions, and Morning Muses. And we're sitting down to talk to Wally around the campfire about who he is, what he does, and all of that good stuff. So welcome, Wally.
Hello there. How are you, Scott?
I am very well, thank you. I'm so excited that you took the time to sit down with us because you were probably one of the most interesting, fascinating people I have met in a very long time. You know, it's a photo booth. Okay, I know what a photo booth is. It's a musician. I know what a musician is. And I've even spoken to, professional speakers, and you pretty much, you know what they do. But you, Wally, are so truly wonderfully unique. Um, so for those who don't know who you are and what you do, we'll talk about the musings in a moment. But I really want to talk about you play the guitar.
I strum the guitar. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I have also been guilty of people saying I play. I really don't play. I just kind of make some noise and hum along, right? But you make some music with the guitar, and then you have these songs. Are they your songs or are they like standard songs?
I typically only perform other people's works, mostly copies of everything else. Old standards that folks might recognize in either the Western or the folk genre.
Well, what comes to mind right away is Happy Trails to You, right? So
Yes.
so that's kind of the thing, right?
Yes,
But
that's a bit of it. Yep.
so you sing the songs, you play, you strum the guitar, but then you tell stories in between, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, that's correct.
Now, are these stories that you wrote, or are they stories of things you learned along the way in life, or what kind of stories do you share?
They are both, Scott. There's a little bit of, on occasion, something that I've researched and found something out about a particular song. Other times, only things that I might have heard from, let's say, a cowboy poetry gathering that I was at. Somebody mentioned something, and there are those stories that they have been true happenings in my life, but I've written the story that goes along with the song that I sing.
Kind of reminds me what my mama used to teach me. She used to say, never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And as I always tell my audiences, it's up to them whether they want to believe it or not. So yeah.
But I suspect that when you tell the story, it's pretty believable.
It certainly works that way. Yes. And yeah, I've had more than one person over all my years of doing this come up and fact check me afterwards and ask about, is this real? Is this not real? And I'll often say, well, if it wasn't real, it should have been
I love that. That I assume is an outlier because most people just like to be entertained. And I think that is the true purpose.
real. Yes. Yeah. That's, it's interesting how, in the end, there are people in this world that just want to sit back for a little bit, take a couple of deep breaths, relax. And even I oftentimes call what I do stirring memories. And it's a lot of times with a lot of the folks, it's kind of that big, deep breath and go, I remember, and go from there. These days, it's even more so. Some of the folks that are younger than me these days, they'll often come up afterwards and say, I remember when my grandmother or my grandfather sang this, or my dad or my mother sang this, or talked about this. And oh yeah, I've seen some of those old TV shows on this cable channel or that cable channel. But yeah, it's an interesting thing, and it oftentimes brings back memories for folks that, although they haven't forgotten them, they haven't thought about them in a long time.
Mhm.
And I haven't had anybody run away screaming and hollering yet. So, but we still have time.
Yeah. Well, but I suspect you're doing it right. I'm curious, Wally, when you do a performance, whether it's around the campfire, at some Western setting, in the backyard for a social event,
Right.
is it tightly scripted, or is it improv in the moment that you look around at the audience and you say, I'm going to play this song and forget that song, I want to tell you this story? Or is it really, it's a set?
It's a little bit of all of that, Scott. Uh, I've been doing this program that I call it for well over 15 years now. But what happens with what I do is uh, I'll just kind of see what happens in the very first part of the whole thing, and sometimes I'll pick and choose, and other times um, I have my basic set will run just about 55 minutes. And if I just run through it as I normally would. But sometimes I get a sense that, this audience might work better with this particular song or that particular song. And so I allow myself space to, I give myself wiggle room. And it's always worked out well, which is
That's
fun because I never know. There are times when I don't even know what the program is going to be, so that's always fun.
Well, I think that sounds really smart. As many entertainers that I've spoken with, they refer to in the moment. In other words, this is the plan, but based on what just happened, what I just saw, what I just heard, or the smell of something burning around the campfire, you change what you're singing to or talking about to match that moment.
Yes, yes, yeah. And I readily admit that I don't have a huge repertoire, but I have an adequate one for the moment, and that works for me.
I think you sell yourself short. You've been doing this 15 years. I suspect you have a huge library of information and stories to draw upon. But I'll let you ponder on that for a spell.
And now, in complete open honesty, it makes a whole lot of difference if I have my iPad sitting in front of me or I don't. And the older I get, the more I sometimes wonder whether or not I should have the iPad. But I prefer not having the iPad in front of me for all the words, for all the different songs and such, because when I don't have that in front of me, it's a whole lot more spontaneous. It's a whole lot more intimate, interacting back and forth with the audience, watching them react. So I get to react, so they react. And so given the options, I would always rather have just be sitting there, me and my guitar, and sitting and singing and telling stories, as opposed to sitting there and glancing down now and again at the words on the iPad, sort of thing. You understand?
I do indeed, and I suspect that our audience will as well. Is it always a country Western campfire theme, or does it lend itself to other types of thematic events?
It seems to be the niche that I've found myself in. I do a little bit of folk. I do a little bit of Western music. A lot of times, folks will ask about country, and I try to explain to them that there's a bit of a difference between country and Western. music, and I don't really do a whole lot of what people call country. I lean more towards the Western, and today's country I'm not well versed on at all. And I also do the folk music that I learned over the years and come to love and enjoy so much. So I can sit in front of an audience of any size, of any variety. They can be wearing t-shirts and blue jeans, or they can be wearing a suit and tie. And I believe, I believe that I can address any and all of those needs. However, it will be pretty much right along the same lines. It's very family friendly, very family friendly, and there's a lot to be said about the little kids jumping and skipping and hopping around while I'm singing Grandma's Feather Bed or something like that. So.
It seems like the perfect match when you mentioned that it's family friendly, that it's songs and stories that dad, grandma, grandpa remember or told, but it's also about making new memories with these songs that introduce all of this as if it's brand new to a new audience.
Yes. And it's things like even the situation where an older song that people don't even necessarily think about, but all of a sudden so many people know and don't even think twice about. It's one of those things where all of a sudden I'll sing "You Are My Sunshine," and all of a sudden moms and dads are singing it to the little ones. Mm-hmm. Grandmas and grandpas are singing it to each other, and it's just it works, and that's the only way I know to explain it. I I created what I created just by doing it again and again and paying attention to my audiences and seeing what came back. And when a lady comes up to me with tears in her eyes after I've sang Red River Valley and says, "That was my husband's favorite song," you touch people. And so you work with that.
That's so nice. I love that kind of response from the audience. I don't mean to put you too much on the spot, but do you have a favorite story that you like to share around the campfire that you could share a piece with us?
Well, I can, and depending on how much time you want me to take, I can kind of walk you through the whole thing if you'd like.
Just give us a taste.
Well, okay, let me do it. Let me try and do it this way. There's something that I suspect that each and every one of us has in common, and we've never thought about it before in our lives. It's getting a song stuck in our heads. It happens to me all the time. Matter of fact, I'll wake up most mornings with a song in my head. It'll go away after a bit, and I don't think anything about it. But one morning, a song showed up in my head, and it stayed there. And it was a song that I'd done at one point in time and just stopped doing. So it started bugging me, and it got to the point where I was on the computer. I was chatting with a friend in Facebook, and I mentioned it to her, and she says, "Well, you know what you got?" She says, "You've got an earworm." I've never heard that expression. I didn't argue with her. When we got done, I got on Google and I typed it in, and sure enough, if you get a song stuck in your head, you've got an earworm. So the song stayed with me, and I was going to a gig that night at a resort. It was inside, and there were sofas there, and there were easy chairs there. And I decided what I was going to do if its song didn't go away. I was going to sing it that night, and that hopefully I'd get it sung out of myself. And so I got there, and there was a on a sofa right close by me. There was a fellow sitting on the end, a couple of youngsters in the center, and the lady sitting right next to me. And I got to a point in the gig and I decided, okay, I've got to play this song. I played the song. When I finished up, the lady sitting there right next to me, real close by, well, she leaned over real close by to me, and I swear she had a tear in her eye. And she said real low and soft, that was the first song my husband ever sang to me on our first date. And everybody sitting there went, ah, ah. And I went, ah, ah, just like everybody else. And thought inside my head, I would never sing that song to a gal on our first date. So ever since then, I tell all the folks in the audience about that story. I asked the fellas, I say, fellas, would you think of singing this song to your special someone on that first night? But more importantly, I asked the ladies, would you want to have him sing this song to you? Because this is a song I sang.
Oh my gosh. Do I get to know the title of the song?
Trailers for sale and true story.
Wow. Truth that you are such a great storyteller, because you led me right to the edge. You knew I wanted to know the name of the song. You waited for me to ask, and then boom, you delivered it just like that. Beautifully, beautifully done. Thank you, Wally. What a talent. That is too fun. So before I let you go, I have to ask you about the morning musings. What's that all about?
It's literally just my thoughts and on wondering about life, and probably wondering about so many of the things that everybody else wonders about and never talks about. And I just write them down and share them on Facebook and leave it at that. And lo and behold, one day I mentioned to somebody that, I'd like to have a book of them, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. And the fellow said, well, maybe I could help you. And the next thing I know, the Morning Musings book came out. And it's been out since October of 2019. And
Wow.
it is available at Amazon, and you can get it on Kindle as also. And also you can, if you like, if you could track me down, you can also get a signed copy of it from me. But yeah, it's just reflections, just thoughts on living and life and wondering. And I live a most interesting life inside my head. So there you go.
Well, thanks for sharing a piece of your thoughts and musings with us today. As a matter of fact, I have all the links for getting your own personal copy of Morning Musings that will be in the show notes for this spotlight video for you today. Thank you so much for sitting down with us, Wally.
Thank you so very much for this. Hope to see you real soon.